Hi everyone, welcome to part 9 and the final episode of my Lord of the Rings Helm's Deep level. And in this level what we're going to do is we're going to look how we combine all the things we've learned over the last 8 episodes and actually make the battle come to life. And that's going to cover what triggers the siege towers, what triggers the catapults, what triggers the men marching, the orbs resetting, the castle wall exploding, the fires on the wall, everything up to the levels being won and destroyed. Now, the map that you're seeing now is everything complete. Okay, everything done. This is it all finished, ready to go, ready to play. So you'll see here I've added a few extra things, like I've added some ladders. Yeah, I've added a downward ramp to allow the enemies to get down into the base a little bit easier. Yeah. I've created internal ladders so it allows me to run around on the level as well. So not I've only got all my little points here at the side. You'll notice behind it as well we've got ladders to allow us to go back up. So we've got these orbs that we have to protect, but we have these little options here, okay, and that allows me to climb up the base back up to the tower. Okay, and then here we've got a couple of new areas that we haven't even dealt with, where we've got another trigger area which we covered yet, which we will do in this particular episode. Now, nothing too fancy happens within this clip. We are just showing you how we pull and make the whole thing come to life, really, and just showing you what the castle has looked like and how it's all moved together. Okay, so we've got our challenge marker, which is inside the base, that triggers the whole level off. But like I say, this level is us defending after a humongous attack. Yeah, and we've got to stop those two little Odin treasures from being destroyed. I've rearranged certain parts of the castle, and a couple of things I've added also is I've added little burners into the sky. See these little burners down here? These are absolutely were needed, because when I played the level through, when it goes pitch black, you cannot see anything. Because if you remember, we've also got it going playing through the night, and you have to defend this castle through the night. So when I played it first through, I couldn't see a thing where I was going. So I put these burners all over the place, and I'm going to cover those little elements as well. Another thing I've added that you don't have to do, which is the ladders on the outside of the wall. Now I didn't want to put them there, but the troops will stay down at the bottom of the wall and they won't do anything, so I wanted those there so some of the troops will actually climb over and distract me. Because remember, in this level we want to stop those siege towers hitting the wall, so I've allowed it so that some can climb up and then will distract me from shooting the orbs. Now when you finish everything, and only when you finish everything, you are going to then move all your logic hidden out the way, and this is where I've placed it all underneath. Now I'm not going to show you this bit I can understand you can do yourself, but you'll notice I've kept them all in the same areas so I can go back and track them. So I go track them to track them. If you look there on the right, we had the weather, we've got this to do with all the castles and the wall exploding. On the left hand side we've got our starting points, which we're going to cover here, so this is all our starting little logic we're going to look at. But everything is set up in here, yeah, and we're all going to ready to go. But that, by the way, is the very last thing you do. You do not move anything underground until you've got the thing finished and you've tested the actual item out. Yeah. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go back to where you guys are. So if you've all been following my clips through the screen, we're going to go back to where all the logic's still on top of the level, and we're now going to put in the starting components to make the whole thing come to life. So let's get through this and let's get our battle up and running. Okay. Cheers, guys. Right, so we're now back with all the logic on top of the level, yeah, and we've got our little Odin's treasure there down there on the map, which we're going to defend. So I actually need another Odin's treasure because I want two. One is for the first part, but once they get through that, you're never going to be able to defend it. There's going to be too many. So I need the second one right at the top of the castle, where the troops will come back, and this is like our final stand. So I want two Odin's treasures that we need set up. Okay. So there are our little objects here, and one thing we're going to set this to, we're going to choose it to be the Eternal Flame for the new Thor film, which, by the way, is probably still, I think I have to say, my favourite film for 2017. Thought it was brilliant, but that's decided from the point. Now we can change the level depending on how easy you want to make your battle, whether you can change it to higher level or lower. You can test that around, but from what I've tried, 1,000 seems to be about the right amount. So there are our two Odin treasures that we're defending from. So what we're going to now choose is a challenge marker. Now sadly we can't put any descriptive text on there, but it still works. So Disney, sod ya. Who cares? We can still get this thing to work for us. So we're going to go and place this on our map. Now, the one area I don't want to be able to go over the top of it and actually end the challenge. So I'm actually going to put it inside the keep. I played around with it thinking, where am I going to put this? And I thought, I know what? I'll put it on the keep. And when I finish, I'll fill that back wall in so that you only go in there to start the challenge. You can't by accident start that option. So, what do we do first? Right, so when we do a new logic, when we start a level, what do we do? Well, what we want to do is we want to reset everything first. So my first priority is to reset, just in case this is our second game. So we've reset Odin's treasure, so new logic connection, on started, go back, and I'm going to do the second one. So both of those have been reset, okay, which will do that object quite nicely. Now, if you've been following the rest of the clips, we've got all the reset options already pre-built for us as well. Okay, so not only have we thought of building the logic, we've also thought about this case that what if we want to try the level again? Do I have to load the whole thing up? So we've set all the mechanics in here to just do a complete reset. So when game started, what's the next thing that we've done? We've reset Odin's treasure. I know what we can do is we can wipe out any enemies that are already there. So this little logic gate that we created reset all the enemies that have come charging. Can we switch them off? So if we input a signal into that gate, that will then instantly clear off any enemies that were previously there on the screen. All we've got to do is input a signal into there. So that's that one done. Now, the next thing we're going to do, what else are we going to do when we start a level? Well, in that case, we could have, the castle could be on fire, yeah. We could have the siege towers already used because we already played it before. So let's reset all the other items. So on started, let's go and reset all the moving elements on this screen, which we know is set in this logic gate down here, which is this one option. If you click onto there, that will reset the gates, it will reset the explosions, the fires. So just inputting one signal in there will cover a whole multitude of sections. And again, in my previous clips we've covered those, so just making sure they're the ones we've inputted in. Okay, so that's another option that's reset. Now what's the other thing we need to reset on here? Well, I know what we need to do. We need to make sure that the wall has been rebuilt. Okay, so it's a weird thing thinking of all the things that you finish with, yeah, but what we're doing is we're just doing our reset buttons again. So when started, we go over to our castle wall, and these buttons that we've got down here to do our testing, we don't need that because that first button there on the left is our reset button. We click onto there, it re-puts the wall back together again. Now obviously when we finish, we're going to delete all the buttons completely off. All those buttons are going to go, we don't need them at all. So we've now got those sections all set up. The walls rebuilt, which I'm quite happy. The treasures set up on there on the screen, that's quite good. Okay. Right, what else are we going to do? Another one. We're going to do another little option on here. We're pretty much set, I think. So, my question is, how do we complete the game? Well, we complete the game by completing our weather. So in my previous clip, I've showed you how to work through the night. And that last logic gate says, right, when you get to the very end, when you output from there, we know we've survived. We've survived the entire night and day. So what we can do there is on output from that last logic gate, if we go back to our challenge marker, we can say we have completed the level. And we could choose on that case, right, and that's the case, we have completed the game, you have succeeded. Well, that's quite impressive. Yeah, that has done its job. Right. So, when we start level, what other things do we need? Well, when we start level, I don't want to go straight into the Battle of Perrin. I want the user, the player, to just have a look around the castle, get you, yeah, okay. So we're going to put a little time delay, just to give the user a little time to have a look around, see what's going on, see what we're doing. So what we're going to do here is, new logic connection, when started, yeah, we're going to start this time delay. So we're going to say, right, the level start between, you can have a little wander around, go and have a little nosy on here. Right, start delay. Now, initially, I was just going to give you enough time to go and set as much counters as you wanted to on that thing. So the question is, how long do you want them to have a little wander around their castle, see how they're going, see their environment, because they're new to the level, they don't know what's going, so they might want to have a look around. So you could set it for a few minutes or so. Just for my purposes, I'm just setting it for 20 seconds. That's plenty. Get yourself into the game. 20 seconds of the game, that's our option there. Right, so what we can do now is, right, new logic connection. When that delay is complete, what do we do? Okay, well, that's easy. We are going to trigger our first wave of soldiers. And we're going to say, right, can you start there? I'd like you now to input that signal, and that will now start those soldiers advancing through. And now we are in an endless loop. Those soldiers will not stop fighting until they've destroyed those two controls. Alright, the other one, new logic connection, when delay complete. What's the other thing to trigger it off then, now that we're started here? Right, well the second one is we want the siege towers and everything to start moving, yeah, and start advancing forward. So we have our two logic gates, and the one that we did to the side of this one here, that turns all those on. So we're going to input that, okay, and that will start that section. Now remember, those siege towers, as they move along the lines, they will trigger other events throughout this level, so they're going to start the bombardment as they go through. So that has now set up those little options. Now I forgot to do one little element here, which is a little bit annoying, so you're suddenly going to see some logic appear, but ignore that, we'll cover that in a moment. So I missed this clip out, so I'm just going to jump forward. So don't worry about the logic you've just seen, because I forgot one very important thing. If we've started all the other options, the other thing we need to do is we need to start the day. Okay, so when our delay is complete, the one thing I forgot to do was start the clock for our delay time, because if I don't start this, if I don't input a signal into here, we won't have a day at all, and I missed that off all completely, would you believe it? So that will now start off our whole event and triggers on. That day thing is most crucial. Without that we can't do it. So I had to jump forward a bit slightly just to get that connection working, which was slightly annoying, yeah, because we need that on the screen. Now another thing I found that was a problem is these gates. The troops just run straight through the gates. Right, we'll just go straight in there. They could open it up. We couldn't do anything with that logic, yeah? I couldn't stop them coming in. And I don't want them to come in. I want to keep them at bay. I want to keep them until that hole blows up on the castle wall. Okay, so when that castle wall blows up, what I want to do is, okay, I'm going to lock that down. But when we've got one of these explosions going off, we link through. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to say, actually, when you go through there, what I like to do is that when the explosion goes, can we actually open up that castle wall? So with the new logic connection, when point reaches on path, can you open that gate? Yeah, physically open it. So they're going to be kept at bay because the castle gate's going to be locked. But once the castle wall blows up, then you might as well lift up the main gate and let them in through there. So the other thing I'm going to do on delay complete is actually close it. So new logic connection. When delay complete, can I physically close that castle wall? Because without doing that, if you didn't do the castle door, they just came straight through and ran straight up, which is a bit pointless. So I've closed it. So that is our level started. Now I've jumped back, and you'll see that logic has now disappeared, because we're going to cover that in a moment, because as far as I remember. But that was the key bit I forgot to do in our little stage. Right. So what do we need now? We need a couple of logic gates. Okay. So what do we want these logic gates for? Now this logic gate here is to record which object has been destroyed. Okay, I'm going to need two of these, right? Because basically what we're going to do here is that we may destroy one or the other. Okay, so I'm going to do a new logic connection. When destroyed, can I input a signal into this logic gate? Alright, how do I know that they've destroyed both of them? Yeah, that's the big question. And it's a bit similar to the weather as you go through. So new logic connection on here. When we've got it destroyed, yeah, go back up, and can you input into that gate? So when either one gets destroyed, and we presume the first one will get destroyed first. We hope the first one gets destroyed first, because I tell you, there's no way you're going to defend that one. It's going to be really hard. Okay, so both those have the inputs that go into there saying it's destroyed. So we need a second logic gate here to now trigger what happens. So on this option here, we're going to new logic connection, and we're going to do on output. Can we input a signal into here? Yeah. Okay, so as soon as we get input a signal in here, and that's fine, that lets us know that whoever goes first, we can close it. So we're going to do on output this logic gate. Can we close that gate? So it doesn't matter which option that we've started, which route you've come in from. The first time it goes through, it will go through and then lock the gate. The next time it goes through, we're going to say, right, on input blocked, which we know is the second time, we know that both of those have been destroyed. So in that case, the game has failed. It's over. We've ruined it. Yeah, it's all gone wrong, and we've lost. Yeah, and that is the end of the level. So what I thought I was going to do here, and I'm going to show you, put it in anyway. There are some free text displays already pre-set up here, which you could use. So I could display or message that, right, okay, when the input is blocked, can we display a message to say, oh, you're a failure, or oh my god, life is ruined. So on here, on input blocked, not output by the way, it has to be input blocked. yeah, we can then display a message, and you say, is it a victory? No, it's a loss. All right, and again, you can choose different items, and they will appear in big banner text. We can change that if we want it to appear. And at the end, I didn't bother. It fails, it just say, oh no, yeah, I got rid of it. I actually got it to say something else instead. But I've left this actual logic being set up in the clip, just so that if you wanted to use it, this is how you would have done it in this particular option. Now, before I forget, I didn't show you how to do this, but you see the logic gate that you're sending the signal to when the input's blocked, display this message. We need to reset that logic gate when we start the level. So that gate there, I need to reopen. So you know when we got our time delay to start level, I need to put a logic connection to that gate to I need to reopen it. So make sure you do that option. I forgot to show you that. Now, another thing you can use that's not the text tool, and that is the narrator. There's a narrator tool which is sometimes quite good, okay? And what that does is that's very similar to the text tool, but instead it shouts out a phrase. And one of those phrases I wanted in this particular case was the "we're under attack." So on that time delay, I'm going to want to do two connections. One is to the narrator to say we are under attack, and the other one is to go back to that logic gate, which I forgot to do in this clip. Yeah. Sadly, you'll notice me jump back and forth because it's looking all the little elements that I've missed off, or while I tested it realised that I missed out on the screen, and I wasn't going to obviously rebuild the whole thing. But obviously you've got different set phrases and they will shout out different items, and one of them is like we're under attack. So you'll be walking around, when the time is up the enemy starts moving, and then the system will tell you that they're under attack of the screen. Okay, and that is our level started. Okay, so we now going to just do a few nice little fine fine touches that I wanted to add to this level, and we'll just jump to that now. And what that is that I found that once the enemy, one of the problems I've got, and I'm going to explain this when I do a full playthrough on the level, is that once the wall, they've breached the castle, there wasn't enough enemies. Yeah, it took too long for the enemies to get there, and that's one little flaw that we'll discuss in more detail. But what I want to do is, once that castle wall has blown up, I want there to be hundreds of troops inside here. But obviously we can't have hundreds of troops because the memory system is going to blow up and have a meltdown. So what we're going to do is we're going to create some more enemy wave generators in here to have them appear on the screen. Okay, so I'm going to put 4 enemies in here, so I'm going to have 3 appear along the top, and I'm going to have another 4 in here, so there'll be constantly always 8 within this list. Okay, so just like before, I'm going to link all these individual ones up to a locator, and these only appear when the breach towers make it or the wall's been blown up. So I need to link all these, so I'm just going to do a new locator connection and connect them all to the enemy. Now, one thing we've done, if you play the other clips through, you will notice that we've done certain droid troops, and I wanted to change the characters. So in this clip here that I'm showing you, I had certain different enemies. I wanted even badder enemies that were harder to defeat. But actually, they weren't too good because they're very boring. They don't actually do anything. They don't go tracking down. So I find that the BX Commandos are probably the best ones to use because they will jump, they will climb walls, they will destroy the enemy. Some of the big bosses just seem just to stand there. So I did adapt this after I complete this clip. I did actually adapt those to just use BX Commandos, and they're like the very sleek battle droids. Okay, so we're going to link here, new logic connection on output. Can we have an enemy? So Twilight the Republic I used. Yeah. And then I wanted to try and make it slightly harder, right? But what I would have done is I would use a BX Commando, not with the blades, but just BX Commando. But you could have different ones. So I chose slightly harder guards, and that's the one thing I would change back in the final version. Make more of them. Those BX Commandos are a lot better. I think I picked some of them with blades. Those guys there with the sticks, they don't really do anything. They just stand there, just do their guarding option. They're pretty useless. And again, you can play that when you do your level, but it's just testing it to see which ones that you use. I also wanted the battle droids with the rolling wheel. Yeah, they come spinning in. Yeah, they were a bit boring. They didn't do anything either. It was better to be either a battle droid, a standard battle droid, or actually the ones that I've mentioned. but you just have to play around with it. The very different cars to use. The jetpack guys, I didn't want them to be able to fly straight up to the enemy base quickly, so that's why I didn't pick the Mandolin guards. I wanted basically them have to be on foot to give me some time to get there myself. But you'll see here I'm picking different types of enemies to use. Alright, so all those when you trigger, the enemy will appear. Now all we're going to do now, the object is when every time they're defeated, can you input a signal back into that gate? Alright, and I do that same, and that again will keep you in a constant loop. Yeah, so doing that between each one. Yeah. So on there, when enemy defeated, input a signal again, which will then give me another item. So I've got 3 along the top, and these are going to be scattered around. So they should be instantly there. Try and get the troops, because the troops do take an awful long time to march through. Gives you a lot of breathing space. So I wanted these not to give me the breathing space, but to have more enemies on the screen. So they're all connected there on that item. So one thing we need to do also is that if we test this, we don't want the troops constantly on there, so we need to be able to switch those off. So if you remember in I think one of the early clips we did, we had the button here, and this little button here, when you press that, it closed those logic gates for the ones that appear for the breach castle. So I need to do something similar, but we can't have buttons, we need something to reset it. So I'm just going to create a logic gate here. And what that logic gate does is that's going to close all these gates. So new logic connection, on output, can we close those gates? And that will stop the items repeating. Simple as that. New logic connection, can we close that? The new logic connection, can we close that? So we're just going to do that with all those. So at any stage, if we want to, we can abort out of it and test if it works. Okay, now we're doing one button here because we're going to have a trigger. Now where before I did that one button linked to the 3 items, I'm going to get rid of those buttons. So I'm just going to move this back in. So new logic connection. And I can do the other ones here. And I remember these used to be on top of the castle wall, and I moved them down out of the way. So I'm just going to do that on close. So on output, can we close those? Okay, so that there will close the gates or stopping them from reappearing, which is quite handy. So I just need another logic gate now. Now on that logic gate here, new logic connection, on output, can we input a signal into here? Right? And what this gate will do, so first of all we'll go through and close them, so we're going to do on output, can we defeat all the enemies? So remove all. So that's my reset button. By going into there, it closes all the gates, and then I say flip and remove it all on the screen. And therefore I need to link that other logic gate to the starter of the challenge, so make sure it clears and resets everything back. So what I would do then with this logic gate, I would link that logic gate back to the starter and say, right, one logic gate, can you open and clear everything off that's on the screen? And then when the time delay goes, I would like to reactivate those gates. So on output, can we just make sure we remove any enemies that are already on the screen? Okay, so there's those set up. And while we're there, we might as well do the other ones as well. So new logic connection. On output, let's do the ones on the wall as well that we did earlier. Let's remove all. So this is the reset option, similar we did with the troops as well. Just get rid of it. So when we start the level again, that's what again will be just our reset options. I mean, worst case now, you don't even have to do this logic. You can just reload the level. Once you've done it, reload it up. The level itself is going to last 30 minutes anyway, the way we've got the timer working. Yeah. Let's go through these, remove all, and one more to do, and then we've got that done. Now obviously while I finish this last one off, I've obviously played the level several times and I've seen little sections that I've missed off or I've forgotten to do. So this is one of the reasons why this little clip took longer than planned, because I've realised, right, I need to show you this, I need to show you this element. So they're all small little steps, but these are the little fillers that you need to work out. And so having more troops I felt needed to occur inside the base. So what we're looking at here is, when do we reset the enemies? When do we say let's do it? When do we kill it off? Do we do it on the challenge marker when the game ends? So you could say, right, when the game has ended, do you want to now switch it off? So you could new logic connection, when game's ended, it's failed. We could also do it on when we've actually not ended the game. Yeah, we could also do it when the actual thing's destroyed. Okay, so in this case we could do it on these items here. We know this logic gate here, if we get a signal into there and it's blocked, so new logic connection, when input is blocked, we know you've destroyed both those towers. So in that case I don't need any more end, you've lost. So if I input a signal into that first gate, that will close the gates off and remove them off the system. So that is my nice little reset. So I can do input into there, that resets those items. Yeah. And if that's the case, we get rid of those enemies, we might well get rid of the whole troops as well on the other one. So we can do new logic connection. Yeah. On input blocked. Yeah. Can we, over down here, can we input a signal into this logic gate, which is the one we did at the beginning, which resets all the armies right at the very beginning. So reset them and just clear them all off. We don't need them anymore. So can we get rid of those and input into that signal? Okay. So that's the only other thing you need to worry about on that case, right? So that is the triggers there. So what we need to do now is we need to set this up ready to actually for them to appear when the base has been blown up. So the first thing we need to do is, when we start off, I need to make sure all those gates are open, otherwise the troops won't be in a loop. So I need a logic gate here to actually unlock all those gates. So new logic connection, on output, can we open that gate? Yeah, I need you to do the same for the next one. So new logic connection, on output, can you open? And you're going to go and do this for all the ones related inside the castle wall. New logic connection, on output, can you open the gate? And we'll do it for all of them. Yeah, cool. Right, new logic connection, on output, we'll do all the ones and the 3 ones with the tower. Just open them all up, so that will open the gates on there. Perfect. So that opens all the gates up. That means the gates are all open there on the screen, which is good stuff. Yeah. So what we can do here is that when we start the level, and we know we've got our level option here, this logic gate is our reset button that resets everything. We use new logic connection, on output. Yeah, so, and again that signal is already coming from our challenge marker. We can go in here, can you input a signal into here please, and that will reopen those gates afterwards. So that is ready for us to trigger when those items appear. Now as you'll see, we want them to appear around the base. Yeah. So I want them, where do I want the enemies? Do I want them in the front or something? So all I've got to do is now move the locators in different positions where I want them to appear inside, because I don't want them too close to the Odin's treasure, but I'm going to have them scattered around so they look like they've just come through. So we expect the castle wall to be open. So I'm going to scatter them slightly out so they come running in slightly more. They don't just suddenly appear inside the base. And like I said, I'm going to do, there is one more clip to come, but that isn't of how to build it. That is actually just playing the level, and that's just reviewing it all. And I'm going to discuss the enemies in a lot more details, because we are pushing the limit on the number of enemies we've got. And you see a bit of juddering occurs because it's like struggling. So probably a better flow of when enemies die and how they're replaced would be a better option to appear. But I'm just going to put them in different places, some on the wall, some around the wall, so just more enemies to attack you really. And that was one of the reasons why you'll see here there's no ramp here, because if I put them onto the top there, they never came down, so that's why I made the extra space to place them all over on the screen. So there's the locator, that's the enemy on the screen. And we've set them all up. Okay. So we have now all those pointed in a certain location on the screen, and the other option there is to trigger those items off. So when do we trigger the enemies inside to appear? Well, theoretically, the enemies really need to appear when the wall's been blown up, yeah, when that's gone off on the screen. So what we're going to do is just going to move that logic gate back into the middle to there. That's our reset button. So we need a new logic gate now, and this logic gate triggers them all to appear on the screen. So what we're going to do here is, we know that one that opens the doors, we know that resets them all off, that creates the closes the option, but this one here actually starts them all off. So we're going to do a new logic connection on output. Yeah, can we input a signal into there? Okay, and that will set that troop to go, and I'm going to now link that to every single item we have here on the screen. So new logic connection, we do that all the way across with all those. Okay, so we've done the resetting, we've done the closing the gates and getting us out. What we're doing now here is what triggers it off, and all we've got to do is input a signal into all these logic gates, and that will then create the back and forth that you get an enemy, and once he dies another enemy appears. Yeah, and I also do it to the front 4 as well. But the question is, what triggers that item off? And what triggers it off is this wall option here. This wall, when we get to this point, we're going to say new logic connection, the explosion's gone off. Can we input a signal into that item? By inputting a signal into there, we'll trigger those gates to start, and then those enemies will now appear. So just input a signal into there will make those enemies now appear, and that's when those will appear on that screen. And I can hide that out the way. And that is that section done. So that's now got our more enemies inside the castle. Now, if you look on our creativity toys, one thing I needed to do was this. So under the building sets, there were these blazers. Okay, I'm going to put a load of these up. Okay, now I originally put these in that you would have to light them manually, and if you didn't light them up manually, you were in trouble. That didn't work because by the time I got them all lit up, I was too dead anyway. So we're just going to set these up on the screen here, but we're going to have a logic gate here which is going to switch these off. Okay. The original plan was to have them all on, so when we start a level we're going to turn all these items off. So in this case I'm going to do on output, can we switch off? Yeah. I am later going to do another logic gate to say when we on output, can you switch them on? Because I was going to plan to do it that the individual user had to do it, like I mentioned, and that was part of the build up before the level started. Quick, get as many of the fires set up as possible before they start, otherwise you're not going to see what you're doing. And it was a bit boring, really. It was a bit naff. I just want them to come on. When the fire comes on, it comes on. There's still not enough of these. I think I did 8. I think I'll do more of them. Now I don't know how much this affects the memory when they're burning at the same time, but I would make sure I'd have a lot more I could see, because pitch black was in this case very dark. So all I'm doing on here is just switching these off. This is my reset button, so when it goes into daytime I can switch those items off. Okay, so that logic gate was done there, and again what triggers that logic gate is when we start a new game. So new logic connection, on started. Okay, so on started, can we input them and switch all the fires off, because we start in daytime, so the fires can go off. They don't need to go on there now, so we can input a signal into there and that switches them off. Okay, now all I've got to do those is just rearrange them and place them anywhere in the base that I like. So where do I want them to appear? Yeah, so I'm trying to make out they appear in places that are of use to you. And we found that when you look through this level, this area is quite dark, so I may want even more up here. And remember, all these other logics are going to be disappeared once it's finished. So we're not going to keep them in the same place. So just keep picking these up and just reposition them where you want them to be on your base. Okay, and I just spread them around as many as possible. But like I say, I'll chuck even more in if I can, and then test to see how much this fire overloads the system. But if you left it as is now, that means the user has to walk up to them and set them on fire. And that's what I'll do. So I'll just jump this section, because now that's me just positioning these fire pots. And now I've jumped that. That is now set up here on the screen. Okay, now another thing I found opened. You'll notice here that I've moved Odin's treasure a little bit further back out the way, right? And that was because it was too far forward, and I wanted to make sure they went for the other item first. But the problem I had was that I couldn't tell that they were attacking up the top or not. So what I decided to put here, I thought, well, actually, what if I do a trigger area, and if they go into that trigger area, then it will shout out warning message like, oh no, they're up the top here as well. So I wanted the system to shout out to let me know that I've got them wrong. So I just moved Odin's treasure back a bit, okay? And like I said, it was moved back on purpose because it was too close. And again, I'll mention this in the final clip. But this trigger area here is to when an enemy goes in to destroy that, because I'm down at the front line, if I hear that noise, then I know that I need to get back to this particular point. So new logic connection, when entered by AI, yeah, and it can be any AI, yeah, not just the enemy. At first I was going to do enemy, I said, well, I haven't got any other one running about because I didn't want to clog up the memory, so it actually wants to be any AI, yeah. So new logic connection, when entered by AI, by any of them, yeah, we can go to that narrator we've got. Now I've already moved these down earlier, so these were still stuck up the top, and then I forgot I needed to do that because as I played the level I realised I didn't know they were there. So on the voice, what do you want to say? And I can say they're attacking Odin's treasure. There's something to do with Odin's treasure here somewhere. Enemy at Odin's treasure, yeah. Right, and that allowed me to see that I've got that section, so it will allow me to realise I can get back to the other part of the screen, and all I've got to focus on the main part. So here's an element I've chucked in that I thought was quite handy to use, but that's quite a little option to use. And again, these are the narrators shouted out, which is not too bad. But it definitely came in handy. That I definitely needed that extra prompt, and that's just the logic gate that was all at the top there. By the way, I've just moved that down earlier on. Again, I did mention I would jump back and forth slightly. Okay, what else have we got to show you? Right. Okay. As you'll see here now, I've moved all the logic underneath the ground. And these items here, I've got our trigger gates when we change the weather. So actually what we're going to do here is, when it goes pitch black, I felt that we need the system automatically to come on. So I'm just going to get another logic gate here. So let's grab another logic gate. Okay. And what I'm saying here is, well, actually, that level, that item there is where it goes pitch black. We start off with the top third, but the third one where it goes dark. So what we do, new logic connection, on output, we know it goes and makes it pitch black. So what we're going to do is we input a signal into there, which means we've done the signal. Great. What do you want to do? So I'm now going to grab that and move that back into the map. Okay. And what I'm going to do with this is that for all the fireplaces that I've set up, yeah. All the fireplaces I've done, new logic connection, yeah, on output, what I'm going to do is, can we then switch them on? Right, not off, I want you to switch the flipping things on. So new logic connection, on output, can you switch all the fireplaces around the castle, and can you switch them on? There was too many to do, and I needed to be able to see at least something. You still can't see that clearly. And because it's not a city streets where there's quite lit up, I did the pitch black on a city street, and I can still see quite clearly. But in this castle thing, you really can't see, and it really is quite a cool effect, and it makes it so much harder as well. So all I've done here is all my fireplaces I've scattered around. That's all I've done. I've just switched them all on, and that's it really. Trying to think of what else we need to do now. We'll just go through and set every one of those items on, and then obviously I moved that down. So again, it was an afterthought that I did to start with. First of all, I thought it was a good idea, you had to switch them on, and then I thought, do you know what, nope, so that I want you to actually just do it automatically. I'll be too busy fighting. Now, as I go through here redoing the link, and you'll see here I'm picking up the item and moving it closer to the other fire pots I've got round. So each one I'm going there, just a new logic connection, on output, switch those on, and you'll just to help me move it around, make my life a little easier. As I finish this section off, that is the final stage. That's the last thing that I added to my level. Okay, so what we're going to do now is, it's taken 40 odd minutes to show you all these clips, how you join all these sections together, so I hope you followed it. I'm sorry this clip is probably the weakest one I've done, but actually the most crucial out the entire set. Yeah, although the other bits are all complicated, without this level your whole level will fall apart. So hopefully you've seen which bits to add up, and I apologise for the slight jumping back and forth with seeing the logic and not logic, but that is it now complete. Okay, what we're going to do now is I'm going to post a full run through of the level, right, and we'll just discuss of different things I might want to adjust, because there's still things after I finish that I'd like to change, but I'm actually quite pleased with the end result. It's worked quite well, and I mean, you can always be picky on it, but I think it's gone quite well, and it has the effect that I wanted to. The night and the day goes quite good. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a full run through on the whole level. Put your remarks in. Let me know if you're building this, or if you're going to do anything different to this level. Give me your feedback and tell me what you think. Well, actually, did you think of doing this, or I didn't have it doing the attack in the castles? What your feedback when you look back? But it is weird when you play level back and you can see the holes and flaws in it. You're like, I've got to fix that area up. But this works relatively quite well. We do push the memory to its maximum on the PS4. It does struggle a little bit, so if you find you're struggling judders a lot, you may have to bring the enemy levels down slightly. Appreciate all the feedback that you guys give. Love all the comments that you do. It does make my day when I see some of the comments you do. So keep chucking them in. Tell me the time the levels that you're making. Yeah, and I will get all these out at the same time. So the playthrough is going to be issued at the same time as this one, and then I have a new toy box level to work on. And I did mention, well, there's one clip just before we go, even though Battlefront is out and I'm playing that. And I'm a little bit disappointed, sadly, but I'm not going to go there. I'm enjoying the levels, but some of the gameplay issues, for example, the progressive system is not too good. But we'll worry about that on another day, because we could rant for ages, and I think everyone else is doing enough ranting about that game. So I'll leave that at the moment, but I will get you the other clip out to you straight away. I appreciate you watching. And don't forget to like these clips. Yeah, it just keeps everyone noticing that Disneyfinity's out there. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will catch you later. See you later, dudes. Bye.